A strange thing has happened over the last 20 years. We now carry more knowledge in our pockets than entire libraries once held. Yet despite living in the most connected age in history, millions of people feel more distracted than ever before. For many of us, the first decision of the day isn't what to eat or where to go. It's whether to check the phone that has already begun demanding our attention before we've even left the bed. It feels harmless because it's familiar. But when billions of people repeat the same habit every morning, those few quiet seconds become one of the most valuable assets in the modern economy. Most people believe technology became valuable because it stores information. In reality, some of the world's largest companies became valuable because they learned how to capture something far more limited: your attention. Every notification, every recommendation, every endless scroll competes for the same limited resource. Not your money at first, your time. Because once your attention is captured, almost everything else becomes easier to sell. This is the quiet trade happening every day. Most of us never agreed to it in any meaningful way. Yet we participate in it hundreds of times before the day is over. To understand how this happened, we have to go back long before smartphones, social media, or even the internet itself. Because the battle for human attention began centuries ago. We simply changed the battlefield. For most of human history, attention wasn't something people could buy. It had to be earned. A storyteller needed a better story. A merchant needed a better product. A leader needed genuine trust. Then something changed. Newspapers gave businesses the ability to reach thousands of people at once. For the first time, attention could be purchased, instead of patiently earned, one conversation at a time. Radio accelerated the race. Television transformed it again. Every new invention made it easier for a single message to reach millions of minds at exactly the same moment. But even television had limits. There were only so many channels, only so many hours in a day, and only so many advertisements people could reasonably watch before turning away. The internet removed nearly all of those limits. Suddenly, anyone could publish, anyone could advertise, anyone could compete for a few seconds of your attention. At first, this felt like freedom, more voices, more ideas, more opportunity, and in many ways, it truly was. But abundance creates a new kind of problem that history had rarely faced before. When information becomes unlimited, attention becomes the bottleneck. And once something becomes scarce, markets begin competing for it with extraordinary intensity. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The biggest advantage technology companies have isn't faster computers or smarter algorithms. It's that the human brain still works almost exactly as it did thousands of years ago. Our ancestors survived because they noticed sudden movement, unfamiliar sounds, and unexpected changes. Ignoring those signals could mean the difference between life and death. Today, the danger is gone, but the instinct remains. A vibrating phone activates the same ancient system that once warned our ancestors something important had just happened nearby. Your brain doesn't automatically know the difference between a life-changing emergency and a social media notification. It simply reacts to novelty, because that's exactly what evolution taught it to do. That's why distractions feel so powerful. They aren't interrupting your brain. They're using systems your brain already trusts to help you survive. The attention economy didn't invent human psychology. It simply became extraordinarily good at studying it. Every click, pause, and swipe teaches digital systems a little more about what captures your attention. And this is where the story changes. The product isn't always the app, the video, or the platform. More often than not, the product is the time you unknowingly give away. Most online services describe themselves as free, and technically that's true. You don't hand over cash to search the web, watch a video, or open most social apps. But every business still has to make money somehow. Imagine opening a beautiful shopping mall where nobody pays an entrance fee. At first, it sounds like generosity. But the building still needs electricity, employees, security, and maintenance. Someone is covering those costs. Digital platforms work in much the same way. Instead of charging every visitor directly, Many earn revenue by selling opportunities to reach the people spending time inside their platforms. That changes the relationship completely. The longer people stay engaged, the more opportunities exist to place another recommendation, another advertisement, or another piece of content in front of them. This doesn't mean every company has bad intentions. Most are simply responding to powerful economic incentives. Businesses naturally invest in whatever keeps customers coming back. The problem appears when success is measured mostly by one question: how long can we keep someone looking at the screen? That single goal quietly influences thousands of design decisions. And that's the quiet shift most people never notice. The competition is no longer just for your money. It's for your minutes, your focus, and eventually, your habits. Being busy and being productive are not the same thing. Yet the attention economy quietly blurs the difference. A day filled with constant activity can still leave you wondering where all your time actually went. Researchers who study attention have repeatedly found that interruptions carry a hidden cost. The distraction itself may last only a few seconds, but returning to deep focus often takes much longer. Imagine trying to read a book while someone taps your shoulder every few minutes. Eventually, you stop expecting long periods of concentration. Your mind begins preparing for the next interruption instead. Over time, constant switching trains the brain to expect novelty. Quiet moments begin to feel uncomfortable, not because they're harmful, but because we've become less familiar with them. That's one reason many people now describe themselves as mentally tired, even after spending most of the day sitting down. The brain isn't exhausted by movement alone. It's exhausted by constant decision-making. Every notification asks a question. Should I open it? Can it wait? Is it important? One decision feels insignificant. Hundreds of tiny decisions quietly consume mental energy throughout the day. The result is surprisingly expensive, not because your wallet becomes lighter overnight, but because your most valuable resource, your ability to focus, is gradually spent in tiny amounts that are almost impossible to notice. When people hear the word poor, they usually think about money. But money is only one form of wealth. Time, attention, skills, health, and meaningful relationships are assets too. And unlike money, many of these cannot simply be earned back. Every hour deserves a simple question. Did I choose where it went, or did something else quietly choose for me? The answer often reveals more about our future than our income ever could. Many purchases begin long before we reach the checkout page. They start with repeated exposure. A product seen once is easy to forget. A product seen 100 times begins to feel strangely familiar. Psychologists call this the mere exposure effect. We tend to trust things that feel familiar, even when we don't consciously remember where that familiarity came from. It's one of the mind's quiet shortcuts. This doesn't mean people are easily manipulated. It means the human brain constantly simplifies an overwhelmingly complex world. Familiarity often becomes a useful shortcut when there isn't time to evaluate everything from the beginning. The attention economy understands these shortcuts remarkably well. It doesn't need to change who you are. It only needs to influence what you notice, and how often you notice it. This is why the real cost of the attention economy rarely appears on a bank statement. It appears as books never finished, ideas never explored, conversations interrupted, and opportunities that quietly passed by, while our focus was somewhere else. Our lives are shaped by our habits, and our habits are shaped by what repeatedly receives our attention. That's why the attention economy isn't only competing for your next click, it's quietly competing for the direction of your future. Every small decision feels unimportant on its own. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. But habits are rarely built in dramatic moments. They grow quietly through repetition, almost too slowly to notice. The human brain becomes remarkably efficient at repeating familiar routines. That's useful when learning a language or mastering an instrument. But the very same system can also automate distractions. Perhaps the greatest hidden cost isn't lost time, it's lost presence. We can be physically beside someone we care about, while our attention quietly lives somewhere else entirely. Attention is one of the purest forms of generosity we can offer another human being. When someone feels deeply heard, they rarely remember the exact words. They remember how completely present you were. The attention economy cannot force your choices, but it can continuously influence the environment in which those choices are made. And environments quietly shape behavior more than we often realize. And that's why this conversation matters. Because every day, often without realizing it, we are practicing becoming a certain kind of person. The question is whether that direction was chosen consciously or simply absorbed through repetition. The goal isn't to escape technology. That would be unrealistic for most people. The real challenge is something much harder, learning to use technology without allowing it to quietly use you. One of the simplest changes is also one of the most powerful. Before opening an app, pause for a single moment and ask yourself one question. Why am I opening this right now? That tiny pause interrupts autopilot. It gives the conscious mind a chance to participate before habit quietly takes control. Sometimes, a few seconds are enough to change the next hour. Many successful people protect their attention the same way previous generations protected their money. They create boundaries before those boundaries become necessary. The purpose isn't perfection. Everyone becomes distracted. The difference is whether distraction becomes an occasional visitor or a permanent resident. Attention grows stronger when it is exercised. Just as muscles develop through repeated effort, the ability to focus becomes more resilient each time we gently return to what truly matters. Reclaiming attention doesn't happen all at once. It happens one decision at a time, and over months and years, those quiet decisions slowly become a different way of living. If someone wanted to understand who you are becoming, they wouldn't need to read your thoughts. They could simply watch where your attention goes each day. Because attention is the quiet architect of identity. Every book you finish, every skill you practice, every meaningful conversation you have, exists because your attention stayed in one place long enough for something valuable to grow. The opposite is also true. Dreams rarely disappear overnight. More often, they fade through thousands of tiny moments when our attention quietly drifts somewhere less important. This is why attention is more than a resource. It is the filter through which every experience becomes memory. What you repeatedly notice gradually becomes the story you believe your life is telling. The attention economy understands a profound truth about human nature. Whatever consistently earns our attention gradually earns our time. Whatever earns our time eventually influences our future. Perhaps the most valuable investment isn't found in a stock market or a savings account. It begins with protecting the limited hours that slowly become an entire lifetime. And once you begin seeing attention this way, something unexpected happens. You stop asking whether an app deserves a few minutes of your day, and start asking whether those minutes deserve a place in your life. Perhaps history won't remember this era as the information age. It may remember it as the age when human attention became the world's most valuable resource, and the world's most fiercely contested one. The remarkable part is that no one can permanently take your attention from you. It can only be borrowed. One decision, one habit, and one unnoticed moment at a time. That means something quietly hopeful. Every ordinary day offers another chance to decide what deserves your focus. Not through dramatic change, but through small choices repeated with intention. Technology will continue to evolve. Artificial intelligence will become more capable. Algorithms will become more accurate. The question is whether our awareness can grow just as quickly. The future will not belong only to those with the fastest computers or the largest companies. It will also belong to people who can still protect the rare ability to think deeply in a world designed for constant interruption. Because in the end, your life is built from whatever consistently receives your attention. Days become years. Repeated moments become memories. And attention, more than almost anything else, decides which story those memories will tell. So perhaps the greatest form of wealth isn't measured by what you own, but by what you can still give your full attention to. Because the life you experience tomorrow will be shaped by what you choose to notice today.